Greetings, Professor. My name is Andrea Mendieta. I will be presenting this week's task on scaffolding. What is scaffolding? As mentioned by Acosta, I will like to introduce first with the basic and key characteristics. Scaffolding makes learning more comprehensible. It also provides students the necessary support when they are struggling through the learning process. And here the teacher will tailor or adapt certain activities to make input more comprehensible for them. According to the Glossary of Education Reform, we can therefore derive to the following concept. Scaffolding is the help or the support that the teacher provides students who are in some difficulty through the learning process and making the content more comprehensible, more accessible for them, and eventually this will go through a gradual process until they are become independent. Now, it's important to mention that scaffolding considers three main stages. The first one that you can see is the I do stage. In this particular step, the teacher is the main and key character. She will demonstrate, model, for students to see what they need to become aware, need to understand, through the use of various tools to create the support in their learning process. And here the activities need to be very detailed and carefully explained for students to see and to be able to understand how to perform them. The next and following phase is the we do. Here it involves both the teacher and the student, but in two phases. The first phase, the teacher will guide the instruction by telling him detailing what the student must need to do. She will perform the activity with the student to offer the support. And then gradually, in the second phase, she will just ask the student to perform the activity that they have done, and she will actually tell them, please show me how to do this. Therefore, she can assess if he's ready to go on to the next and final stage, which is the you do stage. In the you do stage, the teacher is just an observer. The students will be able to perform their task on their own, and here the students need to apply what they have learned from the teacher's help and support through the scaffolding strategies. Now, concerning the types of scaffolding, we can therefore say that there are two main types. The verbal one, with the following techniques, the teacher will obviously need more time given for the students to understand the material presented. And the teachers will use, in this case, when the material or the content is a bit difficult for them, she will reword it, paraphrase it, make it simpler for them to understand. She might even slower her speech rate and increase more pauses during her presentation, during the time given for students to perform the activities or tasks. Concerning the procedural part, the techniques used here by the teacher will encourage independence in students. This will be basically done through guiding and showing students how to do the activities. And sometimes, and when it's not just one student, but more students that need scaffolding, the teacher might even take advantage of those students who are very well connected and have practically been mastering the process of what the content deals with to help their peers in the classroom. Now, for the procedures used for scaffolding, it's necessary to notice all of the 6 presented here. It's important to mention that certain procedures are the following. The first one is building background in order to make the connections with the new content. The use of supplementary materials that help students make the connections through visual materials and all that might be presented for them to make input comprehensible. Also, the teacher is it is necessary for her to adapt her speech in order to help students understand the target language. And this cannot be done unless the teacher provides very clear and detailed explanations. Another aspect, which is of paramount importance, is the selection of the content. This is done directly by the teachers themselves. And an additional support that we can bring for this process is code switching. Each and of these actions will be referred to individually. Building background. As mentioned by Bogdan and Echevarria, the concepts here need to connect students' prior experience. The connections must be between the new concepts and the prior knowledge that is being created. Usually, we use the building background to introduce or to present key vocabulary needed for the understanding of the content that is going to be fit and done in the class, in the lesson. And with here we have the following examples. We can obviously do this by brainstorming and presenting pictures, asking students some questions, and hoping that they will, the material presented, introduced for them, they will connect certain aspects of their prior experience or things that they might know about beforehand, so we can assist and be able to understand how we can adapt the material for them to make comprehension viable. Quick writes. These will obviously help students by giving them the opportunity to write maybe words, short phrases of using their prior knowledge and connecting that with what the new material is being presented. We can also do this, build upon their new concepts and the new theme by watching videos related to the topic. And obviously, the presentation, which is very visual, is with picture books. The images will be related and make comprehensible of the key vocabulary more viable for them. Now, in this following section, we will deal with supplementary materials. And as mentioned by Vivanco, scaffolding offers the necessary strategies to make input more comprehensible for students. This is of great importance, the selection of materials, because they will help clarify the content for students. They will enhance the meaning and most of the time ease the difficulties in the new concepts and the new information of what is presented. And this can only be done with a variety of learning styles and seeking, obviously, as mentioned by Gardner, the multiple intelligences. Therefore, we must understand that as teachers, not we cannot use one single method, one single type, or one single source to fit all the needs of our students. Therefore, under these circumstances, we are able to use realia, real life objects, visuals, such as pictures, graphs, and wall charts, multimedia, since we are on the digital era, and obviously, and most important, and with using students who learn by kinesthetics, are demonstrations through a step-by-step process, which pretty much they will learn by doing. Now, it is also very important to mention that here, the teacher must need to adapt her speech. And with this, we can say that she must need to pronounce very clearly, speak at a lower rate to make the vocabulary, the material presented, the content more accessible for students. And her voice projection must be loud enough to be heard throughout the whole classroom. Now, we can also make certain adaptations when the language presented within the content, within the material, is too complex. The teacher will need to paraphrase and look for simpler vocabulary. She can do this by using cognates, and cognates are pretty much similar words in the L2 and L1 languages that have the same meaning. This will simplify because students will be able to pretty much connect the new word with which one that they have in the L1. And another way of adapting a speech here is with making the sentences more simple in order to fit students' level of understanding and comprehension. Now, additional support that can be given from the teacher is obviously code switching. And as referred to by Nordquist, code switching is the act of changing from the target language to the native language. This is pretty much just with the sole purpose of clarifying L2 instructions or L2 content as a form of the teacher to providing feedback and making sure that the students have comprehended her and there are no misunderstandings. This is more frequently used in speech, obviously, and which brings us to the final two procedures. The first one being the adequate content. Teachers need to be very careful into selecting the material they're going to present for the class. It needs to be age appropriate. Depending on the learner's age, the teacher will choose, and it will require for the teacher to acknowledge beforehand what the student's educational background is, and the level the student is found in. So the material presented can be comprehensible, and it will just need to be just an L+1. It'll need to have just beyond their level of comprehension, just to be a little challenging and engaging for them in actually to learn new concepts. On here, it's very important to provide clear and explanations to the materials, to the content within the classroom. The teacher here can do it through a step-by-step process. She can model the activity through probably an experiment or a project, and she can present a sample or a final product of what they're supposed to do, so the student can very much understand, comprehend quite clearly what they are expected to do. With all this, it is very important to sum up and to bring out all the benefits that scaffolding brings to the classroom. It obviously helps reduce negative emotions and the difficulties when students are struggled. They can become frustrated. So scaffolding actually does help students ease that. It can help them with problem-solving skills, giving them confidence. Little by little, they will see that they can do it on their own, and it'll help them solve when they're found in similar situations. And it'll also create a higher engagement in students. Once the scaffolding is in a gradual process and it'll allow them to be autonomous learners, then they can obviously engage upon certain other activities on their own. But it is also very important to mention that scaffolding is not an act that is done quite quickly. It will take a longer teaching time, and it's something that we need to consider. It's a very slow process in some cases for students, but the final product is of very good premium and high quality, and it'll offer an incredibly rewarding experience, not only for the teacher because she will be able to assess what students have acquired, their learning process, but also for the student because it will make them more independent and be able to be part of his own, to measure his own success and acquisition in the learning. Now, these are the references that I've used for this presentation. Thank you very much.